I'm Stephanie, by the way. I'm going to ask you just a few questions. I wanted to start with your involvement with Rogers. How did you get started with Girls on the Run at Rogers?
I think it's fair to say we were all sort of randomly assigned at Rogers. That's true for all of
Yeah.
us.
Okay.
I think I just picked it off of a map, maybe. This one looks close. I'll go there.
Yes. I remember putting in all the schools, several of them into Google Maps, because I didn't know where any of them were, and picking the one that I thought made the most sense logistically.
Yeah.
And same for me. I was going to say, I really wanted to focus on a more higher need, potentially, lower income school district. And living close to Rogers, I wanted to be in SAISD as the school district. So that's kind of what prompted me to go to Rogers as well.
Very good. I understand you guys got really close. Tell me the story about working together and forming that bond.
The first year that I joined, Laura had been there for a couple of years, and one of our previous coaches, Jeanette, who is now living in West Virginia, also joined with me, and the three of us started to hang out after practice. We would go to what used to be the Almost Pharmacy, and they had trivia night, and we would do that some weeks. And I think Jeanette and I can't speak for Laura, were both in kind of tumultuous times of our lives. We'd both moved or recently had big life changes. And I think that we were looking for new friendships and exploring something different than what we had been doing, just to get out of our normal work lives and personal lives.
I think it's fair to say that making friends as an adult is a little bit tricky. So I highly recommend volunteering as a way to find friends, because then you end up with some very smart ladies who have similar interests.
Yeah, and I would just say I think I'm the newest person to the team, and it was great, already coming into the camaraderie that the rest of the coaches had. So it was, and they were just very open arms welcoming me to the team, and I always felt like we had just that great, energy between us. So it was fun. It's fun.
I moved to San Antonio. I work in Washington, D.C. I work remotely. And I had been trying to volunteer for Girls on the Run since I lived in D.C., but just logistically it never worked there because of the layout of the city. And when I first moved here, I'd been wanting to do Girls on the Run forever. And I had this kind of isolated life where I was in my home office all day talking to people in DC, but not really connecting to San Antonio. And I grew up with kids in my life, babysitting, and I really missed that. But ultimately, when you have a really good coaching team, the friendships with the other coaches are the gift that allow you to have the time with the kids, and vice versa. It would be too difficult of a commitment if you didn't have good friendships with your coaching team, and it also would be fun without the friendship. So it's sort of, it all feeds into each other.
I think we do a really good job of respecting each other's strengths and working off of each other in our coaching team. So that is something that's much harder to do when you don't actually want to talk to the other person. It really helps when you get along well in general.
I wanted to see if you guys, while working at Rogers, if y'all had a special experience that kind of stands out with Girls on the Run.
Well, I remember one of the girls we had, she started 2 seasons ago. I think she started around the same time that I did as a coach. And she came into the program very quiet and timid. And in some ways, I think seemed a little bit reluctant, what is this program? And, she wasn't the most verbal and in terms of the different activities that we did, but I really felt like by the second year when she was coming back, I was starting to see her blossom so much as a young girl. I think she was in 4th grade when she was coming, or maybe it was 5th grade actually when she came back, and she just was had developed this kind of personality even over the summer, it felt where she was just more confident and more comfortable. And really, I felt took a little bit more of a leadership role with the other girls in a way that I had never seen her do before. So it to me just showed, like, even in a short amount of time, like how much she was able to grow. And she was like one of the fastest girls, which was so awesome. And she was like getting out there running as fast as she could. I remember the practice 5K, she was just like, you know, trying to break some records. But so that was a secondary like effect in terms of her athleticism. That was pretty amazing to see.
She also wrote a note to Christina that made me cry.
Oh yes, the note. Yeah.
They write us some fabulous notes, I must say.
I think the overarching thing that Laura was maybe hinting at is that every season there's a couple of girls who are going through something, and when they open up to you and tell you about it, invite you into their lives in that way, it goes beyond like what the lessons that we're trying to teach them are. It means that it just shows us that they have accepted us as adults in their lives, or at least people that they trust and look to and want our input and want us to listen. And sometimes it's really hard to hear what their struggles are, because these are a lot of socioeconomically disadvantaged kids. And these are struggles that probably none of us here have had to endure in our childhoods. And knowing that we can't help them to the extent that we wish we could is really heartbreaking. But it is very uplifting, at least, to see that they can share with us and that we can at least try to communicate their struggles with their school counselors and other resources to see what they can do to help them. And in some instances, we really have made a big impact in the trajectory of their development by being able to be that mentor and lead them to the right people who can help them.
Also, Cassie is amazing at Career Day.
Which has nothing to do with Girls on the Run, except that Girls on the Run has connected us to the school. Actually, Laura has really invested in building the relationship with other faculty and staff at Rogers and getting us involved with other school programs that are outside of Girls on the Run with the other grades, and just really embedding ourselves in that community, even though none of us at the time have or had kids who went to the school.
Yeah. But having those relationships with the other faculty has been so helpful, because when the girls come out and tell you something that you're just like, I have no idea how to deal with this. Like, what do I do? Then we already know who to reach to. And those people are already familiar with us. So we don't have to start from, hi, I'm a Girls on the Run coach and you should really listen to me. Like, they already take us seriously and they know that we're really invested in good outcomes for the girls. And that way we can basically, it lets us do as much as we can within our limited role. But if we weren't connected to the school folks, then we'd have a lot less ability to influence anything.
I know I had asked about special experiences, and you mentioned special experiences with a Girls on the Run participant, but what about any special experiences that stands out with another Girls on the Run volunteer that you guys like to share?
Well, husband and I are foster parents, and we literally had like 3 children dropped on our door 2 months ago in the middle of a pandemic. And do you know who like fed us and took care of us and brought us shoes when they had no shoes? It was Girls on the Run people. Like, I will never forget like sitting in our backyard with these children who had no shoes. And just Cassie and Molly are like, here we are, we have your supplies. Like, this is and the love that like the kids in our house feel from like, just, it's like Girls on the Run once removed, but it's amazing.
I'll share just, I think in terms of the kind of the coaching team and us looking out for each other is always a big thing for me, because, you know, at the end of the day, like the girls are going to come and go through the program, but how do we like keep, you know, the kind of coaching team together and make sure that like we're getting everything that we need out of this too, and we're getting the support that we need. So I think in particular, and I remember Laura was really a good support for me with, you know, some of the challenging girls we might have had trying to deal with just like, you know, let's figure out a good solution here. We want everyone to be happy and, you know, make sure that, like I said, everybody's kind of getting what they need out of it. Because I feel like at the end of the day, for me, I'm the kind of person who can like want to go above and beyond for these girls. I mean, as you know, Cassie was saying, these are girls that a lot of them are going through tough times. A lot of them are, you know, just are, you know, finding their path in life, but also just dealing with a lot of, you know, just extraneous issues. So I was always trying to be like, let's do as much as we can, make sure, you know, we can support the girls, but also I think supporting each other was also a big part of that too.
Mm-hmm. Kind of on that note, I was going to run through everybody real quick. Maybe I'll start with the Cassie, Laura, Molly, and then Christina. I wanted to see how long, I know it's not just one season. How many seasons have you guys been with Rogers? Just real quick.
I started in the fall of 2016.
I can't remember.
You were there for 2 seasons before Jeanette and I?
I trust Mika's math.
Yeah, I think you've been at least, I think last season was your 8th season.
I started in the spring of 17.
And I started it was the fall of 2018, I think.
So definitely more than one season. When you guys are ready, I wanted to ask, what keeps you coming back? You know, sometimes there are volunteers who, you know, volunteer for a season and, you know, and then they'll find something else, but you guys are coming back. Tell me what brings you back.
Well, I think we all put a lot of effort into making it a nice place to be, which sounds hokey, but we recognize that, like, if it's not a fun thing for other volunteers, they're not going to come back. And also we're just not going to have fun. So like when I go on Tuesdays or Thursdays, I know I'm going to see people I like. I'm going to see kids I care about. I know that like whatever happened in that work day where I got screamed at all day, when I walk into Rogers, like I'm going to be jumped on by children who want to hug me. And I work in a world where like everything is always an emergency and everyone is always angry. And, you know, it's, you know, life or death that this brief get done by 5 o'clock. And then you walk into a place where people are actually facing some like very serious actual emergencies and there's joy there. And that's a good thing to be reminded of.
Yeah. I think having like a coach team that you feel really supported by, and also like the girls, I mean, the girls are really important. And I think it's important what we can provide them.
And I think to echo what Laura was saying, I just love going to practice and the girls are just so excited. I mean, you know, you just see their faces light up. I feel like even when we walk in the room as coaches and they're just like, they're so excited. And to me, it's just like, it makes me feel so much better. Like same kind of thing Laura was saying. It's like I had a bad day or, you know, just any number of things. And just to like see their faces light up and how excited they are to be there. And just to know how important it is to them to participate in this program, to me is what makes me keep coming back. I just love that.
I think that like on certain days where I feel really tired or I wish I had more time to do personal things or errands, and I go and I always feel so much better after I go. It's kind of like making yourself go to the gym. You never regret it. You never regret a run. You never regret a workout. And like they all said, these girls have so much enthusiasm and love from like day one. They meet you on Tuesday and by Thursday, they will just run up to you in like a pod and embrace you. And they'll be like, what's your name again? But it doesn't even matter because they just have so much enthusiasm and a positive experience with just what we can provide to them. And so I think that's the reason why I come back. And I enjoy seeing the younger kids progress through their grades. It's crazy to see the change from a 3rd grader to a 2nd semester 4th grader. They really develop their voice and their personalities and their spunk. And it's really fun to be able to do that as a cool aunt and not have to do all of the parenting around that.
So true.
It's also like the perfect age group because they're little enough that they have all the cuteness of a little kid, but they're big enough that they have all of the interesting observations and thoughtful questions of an older kid. To me, that's the ideal age group to hang out with after school.
And the Girls on the Run program has, a great impact on a lot of communities. Can you tell me a little bit about Girls on the Run and what makes it unique in this particular community?
I think in San Antonio in particular, there needs to be a big focus on health and wellness, just because culturally there's a lot of unhealthy diets and not a lot of emphasis on exercise and nutrition. We all know that, as schools are cutting back their budgets and focusing on testing, kids don't get as much recess, they don't get as much physical activity. And so there's a lot of obesity, diabetes, prediabetes in our community. And so it's particularly important that we catch these kids early on so that they have the opportunity to take this knowledge and better themselves and their families as well. They take these lessons home and hopefully share with them that, like, we need to be eating more fruits, we need to be eating more vegetables, let's go out and walk on the weekend, and engage their families and their communities with that.
I also think it's really important that the girls have a place to explore their physicality, which sounds kind of silly, but we're in 2020 and we still don't give girls the same physical exploration experience that we give to boys. So, for them to learn how to do push-ups and learn how high they can jump and all that kind of stuff, so they feel more confident moving their bodies through the world, they're going to be less limited in what they can see themselves doing in the future, just from this, jumping around, being silly, doing the dead beetle exercise, at Girls on the Run. So I think it's really good for that.
I think the confidence that it gives these girls, hearing some of the stuff they just deal with on a daily basis. Even with boys at that young of an age, and I'm like, you're too young for that. But just giving them the confidence and the skills of how to be able to deal with difficult, situations that they're going to be encountering, the rest of their lives, and learning. We give them a little bit of a glimpse of it in the curriculum. It's managing their emotions and just being able to communicate. All of these skills that I think will continue to benefit them as they get older. It's just, to me, it's neat to kind of see that and how we weave that in with, Cassie was saying, to make sure that they have the skills to be able to learn how to, do physical activity, and they, weaving that in, I think, is a nice kind of balance between the two.
What is your favorite part of Girls on the Run? Your favorite element of Girls on the Run? If somebody who had never heard of the program, what would you tell them your favorite part of it is?
I really think it's about life skills. We run theoretically. It's really life skills and role modeling with a side of physical activity.
I like when we walk out at the end of practice, the coaches, and one of the coaches will say, did you hear so-and-so say this? And it's just, they're so funny at this age. Enjoying together, just the silliness of kids, even in what can be really hard times, is really life affirming.
Sharing highs and lows.
Yeah, highs and lows are
stories at highs and lows.
The highs and lows are very entertaining.
It's really fun to see life from their perspective. School as a third grader today, or fourth grader, and as a girl who's 8 years old right now, and as an elementary school student, it's just funny. Yeah, if they're funny, it's fun. The whole experience is just very positive. Very few times do we have to get really serious and say, you guys need to sit down and pay attention. But even then, they buckle up and they know what they're here for. And so I think that volunteering, obviously, people volunteer for a multitude of reasons, but in order to keep people from volunteering and giving up or feeling like, I'm too tired, I got things to do, it's rainy today, they really have to enjoy it at the end of the day. And so I think that's why we're all here, is that it's fun for us to be there.
Even if it's raining at practice? Are you sure you don't want to cancel?
What
Or
if it's
we don't
cloudy?
cancel.
Wait, it's below 75 degrees. What should we do?
Definitely winter coats.
I'm trying to remember if any of y'all were on the practice where it snowed for the first time in 10 years and the girls didn't understand. It was so funny.
What year was that?
I can't remember. It was like the once in a century snowstorm in San Antonio, and they were like walking like Bambi at the beginning of Bambi.
I love the answers. Even the comparison of like, oh, I don't feel like going to the gym, but I'm gonna, once you go, you feel great afterwards. But how has Girls on the Run impacted you personally? Your life.
Well, we met each other. That's probably number one, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're here doing this right now.
Yeah.
I think the impact for me, this goes way back to when I first started. I found out about Girls on the Run in college from like a running blogger who lived in North Carolina, where the first Girls on the Run program started. And I immediately thought, I want to do this. But it took 11 years after reading that for me to have time in my life and space to be able to join. And so when I graduated residency, the first thing that I did was enroll with Rogers. And the best part about the program and volunteering with this is that it gives me something outside of my normal life that I wouldn't normally encounter. I work with underserved people at work, but when you're at work, your mindset's very different. It's kind of very objective based and like, what task do I need to complete in the most efficient way I can, as fast as I can. And it doesn't have as much gratification, and you kind of lose sight of the community because you're frustrated at all the other barriers you have to getting your work done. And with Girls on the Run, it exposes me to a community that I wouldn't normally be able to, not be able to, but it would be difficult for me to just plot myself within that community and engage with them to the same level as I do with Girls on the Run. And so I really appreciate being able to be a part of their community that they've embraced me as part of, and be able to share whatever I'm able to with them as part of their life encounter.
When I first joined, I had come to San Antonio for the Army, and the Army is a very inward-facing community. I was the only woman in the building pretty often. So just getting out into the world and, remembering that children exist, you can go a long time on a military base without seeing a child. But I grew up, I'm one of four, and there were always kids around in our house, and that's what made it happy and a good place to be. So the opportunity to get out of my usual circles and, make a difference for kids in the similar way that, I had role models growing up, and it was really beneficial. So being able to continue the gift giving is really important for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, just to build on what Molly was saying, I feel like even just thinking back as a kid, it's so important to have role models that were not like a parent or a teacher. I mean, both are important, but having like an adult figure as that kind of role model, I think is really important for young girls. And so I think I just liked being able to be a role model, even if it was for a short time. I don't know if they're going to remember me as they get older. That doesn't really matter. But having that impact, like at some small level, like in their lives, I feel like at least makes somewhat of a difference in kind of their trajectory. So to me, it feels that kind of personal gratification, knowing involved in some small way, in some of these girls' lives.
The only thing I would add is, for me personally, I moved to San Antonio after having like a catastrophic fall, and that's probably an understatement. So when I moved to San Antonio, I had been told that I probably wasn't going to run again ever. And I've not resumed the running practice that I had before I moved to San Antonio, but it was really hard for me to like lose that piece of my identity and that like stress release. And as I like worked towards running an unassisted mile and learned how to re-jump, it was just really discouraging. Like, it wasn't fun. All I could think was like, remember when you used to do X, Y, or Z and it was easy and fast, and now like it's just not fun anymore. And Girls on the Run for me is a way, like, I have running in my life, but not in a way that makes me like sad for what I can't do anymore. It's, you know, it's a way I can do it that's fun, and it's a way that I can like share that with someone else and not just be thinking about what I can't do.
There was one more thing I wanted to add. I think the other thing that I think is so important about the program is that it's accessible to every single girl that fits the age group that wants to participate, because so many of our girls, this is where I'll start to joke up, you know, would not be able to participate in the program if, you know, their parents had to pay, you know, the upper level of the registration fee to get in. And I would just say that, you know, Minka and her team have been amazing in understanding that, you know, while our girls and their families may not be able, you know, to pay the full amount that's needed to run the program, that they are so invested. And, you know, even if the parents contribute like $5 or $10, like that's a lot for a lot of our kids' families. And so to me, the fact that they don't have that barrier is amazing, because I just think of how many of those amazing girls we wouldn't have had on the team, you know, if cost was a barrier. So to me, that's just such an important part of the program.
And shoes and running clothes and all the things that, you know, we have our own little like support group at Rogers that makes a huge difference on providing for our girls. But the support that we get from the Girls on the Run office is also critical.
Yeah, I mean, so many of those girls didn't have their own shoes to be able to run. They had like old shoes that were too small, and being able the office being able to supply that for the kids, and I'm sure all of the board of directors that are contributing to that. I mean, it's amazing to see the kids' face, the girls' face light up when they're getting a new pair of shoes or new, you know, running shorts. Like, they may not have ever had anything like that, like, you know, not to that level. And I just see how grateful that they are to have that.
Christina, did you want to talk about when they did their fundraiser?
Yeah. So I think it was Laura's idea at the end of our season, the spring season of last year, that in order to not have the girls' parents have to pay for the following season, that we would do a fundraiser for our practice 5K. And so we asked the girls to actually go and fundraise themselves to, you know, they called up a lot of our friends and family, the coaches' friends and family, and we gave them a little script they could use. And this was like, I think, really good skill building, because something that a young girl doesn't necessarily learn, like how to, you know, go out and try to get resources to support the program. And I don't remember, maybe Vinka knows what the total they brought in, but I think it was more than we typically would have gotten with them just registering for the program. And they were really excited and enthusiastic about it.
And the idea came up, I think it was the girls. There was a girl who had run the previous season who didn't come back. And we were just kind of surprised she hadn't come back, and we assumed that she had a conflict or something. And then somebody shared at practice she didn't come back because one of the girl's parents didn't have money that week for registration. And I think that it was the girl's idea to think of a way to raise money. I think Cassie was the one who initially volunteered money.
I think you're right.
Yeah, they were concerned that like there was a kid in their community. They were worried that she couldn't come back, and it was really sweet.
There was another year for our community impact project that I had a friend who was trying to raise money for herself. She was running a marathon and donating her proceeds to cancer research because she had a family member who had cancer. And so my idea for them was that for every lap that they ran during this one practice, that I would donate X amount of dollars to my friend who was then in turn going to donate to the Cancer Society. And they crushed it. I mean, they like emptied out my piggy bank because one girl in particular, she ran more than a 5K that afternoon.
He was
And
so proud of
for these
himself.
girls to have like very little, but for them to feel so enthusiastic about sharing what they were able to provide with somebody else that they had no idea who she was or where this money was really going to, except for this this esoteric cancer research place, was really it was really heartwarming to see that they understood what they could contribute to the rest of the community.
We get calls now from the counselor who says this kid would be good in your program. Let me help them get registered. Let me get them set up. And then we call Christina's mom, and Christina's mom speaks Spanish and gets them all set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it shows the reputation of the program and the relationships that we built at the school is like the kids, the counselors and teachers want their kids to be in the program because they know how much of a value it is. And, while we don't speak Spanish, we have some other, volunteers that can help us out there because a lot of our families are primarily Spanish speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that shows the impact you guys have made. So if it wasn't for the work that the families see you doing and what a positive impact you have on their girls, it wouldn't be that way. They wouldn't be calling you to say, hey, here's a girl who needs to join. So I think it's because of you guys and the love that you obviously have for them. Getting choked up again. It shows, and it shows in the community, and it shows with you all and each other, and it's awesome.
And there are definitely those hard days, but that's what our coach team is for.
And it's hard to talk about those details. I mean, it's the life of a girl, and yeah, it's hard to talk about the details.
Yeah, it's like a very awkward disconnect when you have a conversation with one of the girls about how they don't have air conditioning at their house, and so they take cold showers to try to stay cool at night. That's the thing. We need people to volunteer and make an impact in small ways that they can, that's sustainable for every individual. The one encounter I will never forget is when we gave out shoes one practice, and the girl said, "Wait, so I'm giving these back to you at the end of the season, right?" And I said, "No, you get to keep them." And she was like, I was like, I have to take a moment because this is unreal. I mean, kids love getting new stuff, and I understand that, but for her to think that she had to return shoes, a new pair of shoes, it just absolutely broke my heart.
And the girl who asked after we handed out tank tops, she asked if there were any extra, if she could take them home to her sister because they didn't have air conditioning. That was hard.
The girls, when we bring pizza, when we had our pizza party.
Oh my God, I can't even talk about that.
There's always leftovers. And she asked if she could bring some home for her grandmother so that she could have dinner.
Oh.
So then Cassie started getting extra pizza. Speaking as someone who has personally tried to find a mental health care provider who takes Medicaid, that's just not available in this community. The kind of support that you need if you're low income, but we can kind of scaffold what is there. We're not going to be the therapist, but we can be a little bit of an outlet. We can help that a little bit of a way.
This is the age group where they don't think that all adults are trying to get them to follow rules or do things that are on the adult agenda. And so I think it's really good that they can have encounters with adults that they feel are on their side and are here to help them have a better experience, so that as they get older and the teenage hormones are starting to flare, they can remember that there are adults out there who have their interests at heart and to seek those out. It's a totally different kind of impact that these programs can make for the underserved.
Thank you guys for sharing your stories. Mika, I don't know, do you want to ask anything else?
I have to get the lump out of my throat first. You guys are choking me up. That was amazing. I mean, I really appreciate your time and your love for each other and for this program. It's really, thank you. And thank you, Stephanie, for facilitating.
Happy 10-year anniversary, Girls on the Run, Bear County.